Hello and welcome to Leo Soso's Pantheon, a fortnightly podcast with me, your host, Leo Sosos. Today I'm talking with Jade Grrrl, a liberal arts education student from Australia and self-described socialist, feminist and witch. Jade, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Alright, thanks. You?
Good. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Brilliant. Honestly, Skype is just a fucking nightmare.
I never use it, so I was just like, oh gosh, what am I doing?
Yeah, I just find it so temperamental. Like 50% of people can't even find me on here for some reason. It's really weird.
Yeah, I thought it needed my email, but it turns out I didn't even have like a Skype account, so now I do.
We said we'd do this conversation really around the idea of eating the rich.
Yeah.
And sort of coming up with a list about, okay, who are some rich people that we could eat and what might they taste like or go well with. I guess in time sort of since that idea came up, I thought I've come up with a few other questions. So do you mind me just launching into that and then we can maybe come back to the original idea a bit later on?
Yeah, sure.
You said that you're studying at the minute.
Yep.
And is it liberal arts that you're studying?
Yes, it is.
Because I had to look that up because I know nothing about it. I didn't even know really what it meant. So could you just tell me a bit about that? Like what is liberal arts?
Well, basically, as far as I understand, it's kind of everything under the humanities umbrella.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I was studying communications, but I found it a bit restrictive. And the more time I spend studying, the more I'm kind of veering away from, I don't know, capitalist kind of ideals. And I wanted to be able to study things a bit wider, and that studying the arts and not doing a particular major really allows for that. So yeah.
So for
you, at the moment, sorry,
you go.
Yeah. So at the moment, I'm doing screenwriting and writing for publication.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it's quite interesting and creative.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is good.
So for you, was the communications, what would that entail then as a course?
A lot of sort of stuff like advertising and public relations and that kind of stuff, marketing, digital communications, social media kind of stuff.
So for you, is it more about your values and as your identity sort of moves away from a capitalist system that just didn't seem to fit anymore?
Yeah, definitely. I kind of just thought I'm spending so long doing this degree because I'm studying part-time. I may as well learn about the things that I'm interested in, not just as a means of gaining paid employment. Yeah. I mean,
I work at a university as a counsellor, part-time, and it's astounding how many people put immense pressure on themselves to get the grade to then get the job after university, and it's a really unhealthy way to go about this, I think, and it's a byproduct of capitalism that people are obsessed with identifying themselves by their career or future career. And I think the idea of, obviously you've sort of moved away from that consciously into something that's more about, okay, what do I enjoy in myself, generally speaking?
Yeah, for sure. I'm a housewife at the moment, and my husband is the so-called breadwinner.
Right.
So I guess I'm in quite a privileged position to be able to approach it from this kind of perspective of just, studying whatever I want to study. I mean, I do want to be employed one day, but at the moment I'm kind of just focusing on what I want to do. Yeah.
What about liberal arts then sort of drew you to it initially? Obviously, it was the moving away from the sort of idea of doing it just for a career, although that's still part of it. But is it just how broad it is?
Yes, that was the huge draw card. Because I thought, I really want to do more writing subjects, and I'd like to do some history subjects, and I've already done a few communication subjects, so I thought, I just really want to dabble in kind of everything and learn as much as I can, in a broad kind of sense, rather than kind of just focusing on one area, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was quite surprised. I sort of looked into it a little bit after you mentioned that it... what do I want to say? I mean, most university courses really sort of become more specialised.
Yes.
Whereas liberal arts just seemed like it had a bit of everything: literature, philosophy, maths, science, art. It brings so many different threads together, which is really quite uncommon.
Yeah. Yeah. I only just transferred to liberal arts now, so I'm kind of looking forward to branching out a bit, or focusing more on writing, because with a lot of other courses you can only do so many units in a particular area, whereas with liberal arts you can take more units in a particular area that you're interested in. So yeah.
Do you have an idea about where you'd like to take it? Because at the minute obviously you're doing the writing aspect, but
ideally lots of history and writing subjects. I'd like to be a writer one day. I mean, that's a pipe dream, but I mean, ideally I'd like to maybe be a university tutor or lecturer.
Okay.
But we'll see how academic I can be.
So that's sort of the long-term plan, hopefully.
Yeah, for sure. It's a long game.
So is it academic writing that you'd like to eventually go into, specifically?
I'm more interested in creative writing. I know here we can do a PhD that kind of focuses on the creative work, from what I've heard. I haven't looked into it too far. But, I mean, that's still ages away from me, because I'm still technically only in second year, I think.
Yeah, it's still early on then.
Yeah, still very early on.
Yeah. And I noticed that as well on Twitter, you'd put something about writing poetry.
Yeah. I was never really interested in poetry, to be honest. Like, you do a bit in high school and kind of, it's not that much of a pleasant kind of experience.
No, it's really not at school, is it?
No, it's not. And I suppose approaching it now is much more freeing, because there's, all these different ways of doing poetry, and it's not so constricted anymore. Yeah. Like with free verse and everything, so...
You sort of...
Yeah, I'm just...
Revisiting then.
Trying that.
I mean, I've always had a yearning to maybe sort of get into poetry, in the sense that it's a way of writing and expressing yourself where you don't have to sit down and commit to doing a whole book or an essay or something like that, because it's like, it could be like a painting in words or something, but I've never had the confidence nor the interest to properly delve into a bit of the history of poetry to feel that I'm justified in writing poetry, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel the same. Actually.
Yeah.
there's a lot of poetry I don't enjoy reading.
Yeah.
And so, poetry stuff will show up in my class and I'm just like, I'll skim over it and I'll be like, oh God, that's so boring.
I know, yeah.
Convoluted. So I kind of just skip over it.
I mean, you think is that the only poetry that I end up writing is the things that rhyme, and it ends up being a bit twee and naff, but...
Yeah, I never go much for the rhyming stuff. I'm kind of like drawn to the stuff that doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, really abstract.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It's just, I don't know, it's, something I only kind of got into last year, and I'm trying to expand on that. But yeah, it's hard. I think with anything creative, it's hard to feel like you deserve to do it in the first place, which is strange. But yeah, I think we agonize over a lot of things as we get older about the value of creativity.
When you say you don't deserve to do it, could you go into a bit more detail, perhaps, about what that experience is like for you?
Yeah, I don't know. I think because a lot of the time, creativity and creative works, it's not bound up so much in, I don't know, making money. And so you kind of feel like, is this a worthwhile pursuit? Am I allowed to use my time doing this?
Yeah.
Doing things just for pleasure's sake is something that a lot of people look down on, I guess.
It feels more like a taboo.
Yeah.
I'm also wondering as well, I'm making an assumption here, but having 3 children, does that play into that perhaps? Because this sort of social pressure about, you've got to provide for your children. So to do art almost could be like a very a selfish act, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny. My sister is a practicing artist, conceptual artist, and it's funny. Our mother kind of always discouraged us away from creative things, and so we're both kind of rebelling in that sense. She was very, she is very down to earth, and she doesn't really understand what it is that we do and why we're doing these things. So,
yeah. Do you think to her it's a little bit scary, perhaps?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I think, that there are no capitalist careers in art, really, unless you... I don't know. There are, I suppose. I mean, there's a whole capitalism around contemporary art and...
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking Saatchi, stuff like that, but it's all a bit shit, isn't it? It's not really good art.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. It's funny, I've been talking to somebody else on Twitter he makes art and he's a graphic designer by trade, and he also makes music and does all this sort of stuff. And so that's quite inspiring that he's made a career out of his passions.
Yes, yeah.
I think it's hard to break into that, I suppose, and have the skills and the drive to make it work in a sense where you can support yourself and support your family.
Do you think that luck plays a big part in people who are able to make a career out of art? Because obviously there's so many people who live poor lifestyles who are incredibly creative people. But it seems like a mixture of skill, luck, circumstances, who you know, where you are, that really kind of pull that together. And it's much, much more unlikely than doing a career, say, through one of the sciences or something that's more tangible within the system.
Yeah, I notice the creative people that seem to be having quite a bit of success. They have a lot of charisma.
Yeah.
They have these personalities that really draw people to them.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't know how people have that. I mean, it's great, but yeah, I always admire those people who have that, intangible thing that just, I don't know, somehow makes everything work.
That charisma and that confidence.
Yeah, yeah.
It's almost as if certain things gravitate towards those people, perhaps.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure these people work incredibly hard.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, they have that extra magnetism, I suppose, yeah.
But it's interesting as well, thinking from a class point of view, because working class artists or working class people are less likely to have that level of confidence.
For sure.
I mean, there's so many obstacles set up practically, but also in the developmental process of a lot of working class people, is that their parents are going to have been very anxious, and that obviously translates over to the child. So there is something around class that almost prevents working class artists from becoming more successful as well.
For sure. Yeah, I know, like, I suppose with my sister and I, it's we grew up kind of working class, and we're still both working class. So it is one of those things where you're trying to be part of a world where, maybe people aren't generally from those kind of backgrounds, because, I don't know, it's hard for working class people to be exposed to creative things.
Mm-hmm.
When you live in particular areas, you don't have access to culture so much. I mean, with the internet, it's a lot easier to be exposed to different kinds of arts and things, but it's hard.
You're right, the exposure is much less, and I think the encouragement's probably a lot less as well.
For sure. I know, still in the area where I live, I imagine, kids are not encouraged to, visit galleries or, even think about studying, in the creative fields, or even going to university in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you talked a bit about your mum earlier and said that to her it was just something that she would never really have encouraged.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that from her perspective, that might have been from a practical point of view. Like, you're not going to make any money out of that, so.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. My sister, she's younger than me, but she's like the first person in our family to go to university.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So it's one of those things where even just going to university is kind of like a big step outside of the norm, I suppose.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I was the first person to go to university in my family, and I remember because my first degree was in art, actually, but obviously I went on to study psychotherapy after, and none of my family knew what a psychotherapist was.
Yeah.
So they went around telling people, "Oh, he's training to be a doctor," which is like completely wrong. That's just
sounds
like
so prestigious.
Well, I think that they were just like boosting their own ego through something that they were completely ignorant of. It was quite amusing. Anyway,
I think that's an important role, psychotherapist. It's it's an admirable job, career.
Yeah, I guess so. I get a lot from it.
Yeah.
I enjoy it a lot. It's quite stressful at times, but
it
should be, really, I suppose, shouldn't it?
Yeah, I think you're providing an important service to the community. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like psychotherapy because it's divorced from the whole medical model, or at least the way that I practice is. So it's not necessarily part of the whole psychiatric approach, the medical approach, the diagnosing. It's much more about just sitting with the person in front of you.
More holistic, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, just hearing their story and what's their experience, and that's much more personal.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So,
yeah.
On Twitter, you identify as a witch.
Yeah.
Could you tell me a bit about what the word witch means for you, or what, not the word, but what's the identity of being a witch?
Yeah, sure. I was raised Catholic, like not the one that went to church every Sunday, but the one who showed up for Easter and Christmas, and I went to Catholic schools, but I always felt like this is just wrong for me. The whole kind of patriarchal, Abrahamic religions, just was not. I could never get on board with it, even as a young person. And
so you were aware of that from being a kid? That it just didn't click?
Yeah. So it was funny, like, growing up in the 90s, I don't know, I suppose witchcraft became a thing. Tarot cards, it became quite popular, and the Craft movie came out.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, this is more of my kind of scene.
Yeah.
And so I was like, a teen witch. But even back then it was kind of like Wicca, and even Wicca I found at the time was too constrictive and dogmatic. And I'm sure people could argue that it's not, or whatever. I don't particularly care, but I don't know, I didn't want to be a part of a coven or do circles and follow particular systems of magic.
Yeah.
So I kind of just do my own thing and call myself a witch.
No, that
and
makes a lot of sense.
That's it, pretty much.
Because I sometimes refer to myself as a magician. And then you've got sort of the idea that you've got like the old style magic, which is very, there's a lot of tradition, rituals to it, and that in itself can feel very, I think, like you were saying about the Wicca, it's too structured for me. It's too, there's a hierarchy in it. There's too much history infused that I'm not comfortable with. But then I sort of got into chaos magic.
Yep.
Which was much more interesting because it was basically DIY punk magic. And that sounds like what being a witch means for you. It's the freedom to explore spirituality or whatever it is on your terms a little bit more.
For sure. I mean, I don't know a lot about chaos magic, but I have read that Phil Hine book, and I really liked it. I can't remember, but
completely forgot.
It was one of those chaos magic books, and I was just like, oh, this is great. This is, definitely more my kind of jam. But I mean, I don't even refer to myself as, a chaos witch or anything like that, but I do appreciate that system more than thing like, say, Wicca.
I wondered as well if, like, being a witch is tied to the class elements or being working class, because sort of typically in history, working class women were often called witches.
Sure. I think I suppose working class people I have, I don't know how to put it in a, I don't know, I suppose a politically correct kind of way, but maybe a sense of powerlessness.
Yeah.
And I think practices like witchcraft allow for people to get the power over their own lives somewhat.
Yeah.
At least give a sense of that.
That makes sense to me. I mean, working class people historically and even now, obviously, your identity is largely taken away from you. That know your place. That's it, isn't it? You know your place. This is your identity. But I think with witchcraft and magic, that it's all about bringing an identity of your own in its own. It's about taking a bit of feeling, at least, that you're in control of aspects of your life in relation to the world around you. I think that's really important to human beings.
For sure. Yeah, definitely.
But working class people don't have the privilege of being able to have so much control over the physical world in any material sense because of the obvious limitations imposed upon
them. For sure. I think it's the practices involved are more empowering than what I've experienced through, Christianity, my own life. Yeah, for sure.
In my experience, magic works as well. So
yeah. I've had some success with it, and I don't care how it works. I mean, if it works, it works.
Exactly.
And I'm happy to continue doing what works. And
that's it.
It makes my life better.
Well, it does. If it enhances your life and your experience, then does it matter? Does it matter how rationally this is supposed to be working?
No. I mean, I believe in science and everything, but I also believe in a whole lot of other weird stuff. So,
but the two they don't necessarily have to be opposed, do they? I think that's just that fragmentation is a product of the 19th century. Basically, it's. I do think that things are coming together more now. I think that something's shifting.
Yeah. I mean, I don't look into science very much, but you hear random things like quantum physics and all this sort of stuff kind of coming up, and parapsychology, that kind of stuff. I don't pay it much mind, but
there's been big sort of. I mean, the whole New Age community adopted quantum physics into it massively, didn't it? But there's a lot in it that really is just weird, and I think to make sense of it, you have to take a magic or spiritual perspective in many ways, or a mystical one at least. It's interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, it is very interesting. Yeah.
So
I was reading.
Go on.
Sorry. I was just reading a paper the other day about the Norse, I think they call it Filgia or Philgia. I don't know, the concepts of the Norse soul and different parts of Norse cosmology and stuff like that. It's just interesting.
Would you send me the paper if you can find it again?
Yeah. I'll email it to you.
I've got a book on Norse mythology, but I've never actually read it.
Norse mythology is really quite interesting.
Yeah. So, because sort of come into time soonish, but let's go back to the original reason we were going to have this conversation, which is to eat the rich. Did you know that was a Rousseau saying? Is that how you pronounce his name, Rousseau?
Yeah, probably. I knew it was a saying. It's funny because it kind of came out of this series of events here in Australia. Our ABC had just taken down an article about how big businesses weren't paying tax, and apparently our Prime Minister wanted that article removed from the ABC, and so it was. Right. And then not long after, there was an article on the ABC talking about how wealthy people have frugal habits, and it's just kind of frustrating to witness this kind of happening over the space of a couple of days. And so it was just like, yeah, it's frugal to eat the rich. They won't even pay their taxes, so yeah.
Well, absolutely. It's infuriating what's happening.
Oh, definitely.
And all the divisiveness that's happening in society, that's just absolutely shocking if you compare how things feel socially to even 5 or 10 years ago. The world's a much scarier place.
Yeah, it's kind of upsetting and frustrating.
Yeah.
A lot of the things that are happening here at the moment is you really get this sense that the Conservative government is trying to undermine and destroy social services so they can privatize everything, because everything's just kind of falling apart, and they just seem to want to privatize things, and then things become more expensive, and it kind of just continues in that terrible kind of cycle.
Absolutely. Yeah. And have you got a Conservative government in power now then in Australia?
Yeah, we do, yeah.
So that sounds exactly the same as what's happening in the UK.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been 8 years now, and we've gone from having... It was rated it was either Europe's or the world's best National Health Service in 2010 to now it's practically on its knees. It's barely functioning. I mean, it is. There's a lot of dedicated and committed people working in it, but it's an absolute mess, and it's manufactured. It's to sell it off to private companies.
Yeah, for sure. I think with human service kind of roles, everything's kind of being reduced to treating people like numbers, not like people. For the sake of efficiency, for the sake of saving money, and I suppose improving the economy or something. But it's just destroying everything, and making it hard for everybody. Yeah.
So, did you make a list of rich people you'd like to eat?
I didn't.
You didn't?
I kind of I thought about it, and I was just like, wow, I'm so distant from these people that I don't even know.
I had to search, who are the rich people?
Who are these rich people? I'm like, okay, Murdoch, Elle Macpherson. I don't know.
Who's Elle Macpherson? I don't even know who that is.
I don't know. I was just looking at the article that said, I don't know, somebody doesn't drink bottled water. That's one of their frugal tips.
Oh, okay.
Somebody takes public transport. Yeah. Somebody flies economy. These are their frugal tips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking hell, you couldn't make it up, could you?
No.
Alright then, let's start with Rupert Murdoch. What would you imagine Rupert Murdoch tasted like if you were to eat him?
I think he'd be rather chewy and leathery, like gristly. Not very good.
Well, I was talking to my partner about this, and she said she imagines he's like a disappointing orange or tangerine. You know, them ones where you bite into it and you think, oh, it's going to be really juicy, but it's not. It's just the skin.
Yeah. Yeah, like a dried up piece of fruit.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But gristly and leathery and
Yeah, chewy. Not good.
So he wouldn't be good to eat in the
No, I don't think so.
Starvation. No.
Yeah.
All right.
He doesn't look very well maintained. He's a bit.
He looks like a corpse anyway, doesn't he?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Next obvious one, who arguably isn't rich because he's in so much debt, isn't he? But Donald Trump.
Oh gosh, he has a very he looks like he would taste like ham. There's something very hammy about him. I don't know why.
Definitely. Well, maybe it's the fact that he looks like a pig.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. Yeah. Ham.
Yeah, ham. I had this vision of him like being like a runny poached egg or something.
Yeah.
Like the minute you just sort of
look about him, his face.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Have you seen his mum?
Sorry?
Have you ever seen Donald Trump's mum?
No, I haven't.
You'll have to Google her.
I will. Does she look like him?
You know his hair?
Yeah. That hair.
Wait till you see his mum's hair and you will be shocked.
I'm gonna look that up.
It runs
definitely.
in the
family. Yeah, that hair is really something.
So,
yeah.
Okay, I've got Mark Zuckerberg on the list as well.
Zuckerberg.
CEO of Facebook.
Yeah. He looks like he would be very dry.
Yeah.
He looks so boring.
Mm-hmm.
Like crackers, maybe, like Sayo crackers, just dry and crumbly, you know?
With nothing on.
You need to drink water. Your mouth is full of like this dry, powdery kind of substance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wrote down here that he looks. I've got powdery, which is interesting. But like cheesy, like a Cheeto or a What's It or something.
Yeah, something kind of dry and crunchy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stale and.
Yeah.
No life.
No. Yeah, it's funny. Like I hear people like Zuckerberg don't even use, social media or don't use their platforms.
I can imagine that they know how much they're spying on everybody. They wouldn't want to be on it, would they?
Yeah, no. Yeah, I think I read an article somewhere. I can't recall where, but they don't use the platforms and they encourage like their children not to use their platforms and stuff like that. Yeah.
There was a movement being set up I read about recently by Twitter and Facebook employees who were quite high up in the companies, and this movement is attempting to get people to at least limit their time online, if not come off completely, because they sort of they're aware of how their systems are designed to basically get people addicted. Yeah.
That may have been the one I read.
It's quite scary. I also sort of read an article kind of counter to that. It was in a psychiatric paper, and they were saying it's not social media that we're addicted to, it's socializing. I thought,
I believe that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Especially, a lot of us can end up quite isolated. So I think social media is a way to learn about other people and learn about the world in a greater sense, I guess. Yeah.
And it's a little bit safer in some sense as well.
Yeah.
Particularly, a lot of people sort of suffer from social anxiety. I think that social media is really effective for those types.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go through my list then and just read out rather what I've got next to them.
Sure.
So I had Jacqueline Mars, who I had no idea who she was, but she's apparently the CEO of Mars Company. I don't know if you know them.
No.
They're like a confectionery, so...
Oh, yeah, like Mars bar.
Yeah, Mars bar.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay, yeah.
She looked like she'd taste like an egg mayonnaise salad or something.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, not very appetising. And there's Sergey Brin. I think that's how you say his name. And he's the Google CEO, or one of them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He looked stale as well. He looked like he'd smell like cigarettes.
Yeah.
Like just fag ash or something.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Taylor Swift, does she count as a rich person?
Yeah, I suppose so. What would she taste like? She looks like she would taste like Twiggy sticks. Do you have those Twiggy sticks? Like, you know, like that meaty cabanossi kind of stuff.
Are they like I think like knickknacks we call them here? So they're like
it's like a meat product. Like,
oh, okay. It's a meat product.
You know. I suppose I don't even know what you would call them. It's like I don't know, deli meat kind of stick of meat.
Yeah. I can go with that. Taylor Swift, Twiggy sticks.
What did you have for Taylor Swift?
Larry Ellison, who is CEO of Oracle. I don't really know what they are. I think they're some communications company, aren't they?
Maybe.
He's apparently one of the richest people in the world. Yeah, you should look him up as well, because apparently he's 73 and he looks terrifying. He's clearly had some kind of surgery to make him look younger, but he looks like the archetypical devil. Like, he just looks evil.
Oh gosh, I wonder what that would taste like.
Brimstone, yeah. Sulphur. Smell like shit.
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos, Amazon CEO.
Jeff Bezos, fan.
He looked cheesy as well, but more in like a sweaty way. He looked like a fondue.
Yeah. I'm just looking at him now. He looks, like he'd taste kind of slimy, like a fondue, I guess. Goopy. Yeah. Yeah. That goopy look about him.
It doesn't look appetising, let's put it that way.
No, it doesn't.
To be fair, none of them do they though?
No, not really.
I mean, if you're absolutely desperate, which we might all become when we're all that poor, we will have to eat them, but it's not going to be an enjoyable experience.
No, I mean, desperate times call for desperate measures, I suppose.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but, you know, survival.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Anyway, we've come to time, I think, so should we leave it there?
Gosh, I think this is going to give me nightmares.
Well, it's morning, so make sure you spend your day doing something very nice to take your mind off it.
Yeah.
Distract yourself.
Yeah, gosh.
Yeah, don't look at any pictures of Larry Ellison too late. Otherwise you will have nightmares.
Yeah, I don't want to have these dreams of being reduced to eating these people. Oh.
Oh, okay. Let's leave it there. Thank you for the chat, Jade.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
It was fun.
Thank you. Take care.